I'm not going to stand behind that. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. I'm not going to stand because I don't have an iron and it's new. So this might be the only time it gets to be like displayable. So there you go. So my name is Francesca Beard, and I am a poet and writer and performer. And I worked very, very closely with Erin, who you just met, to design the support, the booklet that we send into schools, and also to run the CPDs. So the reason that I was working with Erin is because of Apples and Snakes. So I think I've been working with Lisa Mead, who you met earlier, for about 15 years. And the thing with Apples and Snakes, which is really wonderful if you don't know it, is that they are incredibly committed to access and permissions for poetry. So it's not just supporting artists and poets to make their work, but it's kind of grounded with the belief that actually, I suppose for me, we all live in two worlds. We live in the world of shared reality, and we live in the world of ourselves, the world of our feelings and emotions and experiences. And if we don't share that inner world with the kind of consensus reality world, it doesn't really exist. And if we don't share that world and it doesn't exist, the shared world can become a really frightening and scary place for us. And it's no good for anyone, because only certain stories get told and people don't feel like they belong and the world is impoverished. So I think Apples and Snakes believes that poetry is, and performance poetry is one of the simple ways that you get to share your story. So not only do they support artists to perform, but they also support artists to go into schools and prisons and educational establishments and go into galleries and not only share their work, but share their skills. And so the partnership with the National Literacy Trust was fantastic, because actually it's kind of very much the same thing. It's about the personal being political, and about the sharing your personal story as a political action and as an important action. And it's about literacy not just as kind of satirtainment, but as one of the most important things that you can give a person, which is to give them access and permissions to take part in the world. It was a fantastic opportunity for me to work on this project and to work with teachers, because it was incredibly effective in doing this. So doing the CPD, what Erin and I did was we went to all these different places and we worked with teachers. And as you've heard earlier, teachers are increasingly squeezed, and they increasingly don't have the time to share the visual arts and poetry with their students. So this was a really fantastic opportunity to give a kind of dedicated day to, and it wasn't even teaching poetry. What it was giving permission to explore and to love poetry through the exhibition. Because along with the belief that everyone has an inner world and it's really great to share it and to feel to feel that you have permission to share it, is I suppose the belief or the principle that we can take risks, and we can explore, and we can use our own language, and it's not about getting it right or wrong, it's about having fun doing it. So in a way, what we did was to give permissions to the participants who came along to write their own poetry through the exhibition. So to look at the poets and to look at their pictures and to wonder about them, but also to create self-portraits. So that's what the CPD was really about. It was saying, these are poets, here are some of their poems, they're fantastic, look, they're famous. But actually they're just people, as are we. So what we're going to do today is we're going to play some games, and we're going to write some poems, and we are going to share them. And by doing that, We're going to show you that A, you can do it and you're brilliant at it, and when you go back into school, you can model that for your students, and you can give them permission to write their own poems and to share their poems. Because I think if you are able to write a poem and to share it, you are much more able then to have a kind of a deeper connection to other people's poetries. So for us, if we could support teachers to have fun making their own poetry, the teachers could have fun. The teachers could support their students to have fun creating their poetry, which would in turn make it all the more likely and possible for their students to enjoy and read other poems and to meet other poets. So I think it was really simple for me. That's what the whole project was about. It was about permissions and about, I suppose, dignity in taking risks and having fun. It was incredibly hands-on. It was and it was incredibly improvisational as well. So one of the fantastic things was Erin and I, we'd kind of plan, but then we'd always, you see I've got notes, but I'm not looking at them. We'd plan, but every time we'd go into the gallery, we'd always have a little conference, and we'd go, should we try something different? Yeah. We know that worked, and it was great, and everyone thought it was fantastic, but let's do something completely different. And one of the different things that we did do, actually, was when we got to the gallery, we'd look at the space, and we'd meet the people in the gallery, and we'd say, which is the picture you love, or which is the bit of the gallery that really speaks to you as a curator, as a gallery person. And then we give a bit of time in our CPD to meet the gallery person and get them to talk about the thing that they loved about the gallery. And then in the gallery, we'd all write an impromptu poem, which was just kind of spoken about that piece of work. And it was fantastic, actually. It was really wonderful, and it made it really special. And one of the things, and then the other thing, of course, that we did was that we all wrote poetry, and we all wrote poetry about ourselves. We wrote self-portraits. And between the gallery poem and the portraits, one of the things that happened was that people cried. And it wasn't because the poems were sad, it was because they were brilliant. So people would cry because it was brilliant. Because it wasn't just a CPD about attainment and making sure that they could go back into school and be fun and kind of get the students to kind of like do poetry so that they do well in their SATs. It was much more than that. It was about understanding that we all have the ability to write stories and poems, and that actually, if we write stories and poems about ourselves, it helps us understand ourselves, and it helps us understand the world, and it makes us much more likely to listen to other people's stories. I think I'm out of time, and I haven't done a bit of my notes, but thank you. Oh, I've got 2 minutes left. Oh, fantastic. Okay, good. I'm looking at this. Okay, so we've done the gallery. Okay, the cross arts thing. So. Cross arts is a weird thing, isn't it? Because, but what it comes down to for me is that people have different ways of getting into things. Okay, so some people, so for example, some of the exercises that we did involved putting your hand on a piece of paper and drawing around your hand, and then writing inside the shape that you made in your hand. There's not just kids, but also teachers sometimes feel daunted by a blank space. Another exercise we did was we obviously, because we're surrounded by these amazing portraits, we looked at the portraits and wrote poems about those. Another exercise we did was we played a game, which was a game of like musical chairs, which was a kind of Venn diagram, never have I ever, who here game, which got everyone moving and laughing. Because some people get into poetry through looking at pictures or portraits. Some people get into poetry by sitting down and dreaming, some people by making, and some people by playing. And that's the point about cross arts. You have to kind of, you don't have to, but it's really great to be able to say to people, look, you all have different ways of doing things, and none of them are wrong. And none of them are right either. They're just ways into doing things, and the doing is about connecting. So I think that's me. Cheers.